Hello, and welcome to another episode of the 215 Moto Unstoppable podcast. I'm your host, Gerald McColgan, and I'm all revved up and ready to go with another epic and inspiring episode. So grab yourself a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and get ready to reignite your passion for power sports, resilience, and personal growth. So let's go. So I am super excited today to be able to have my good friend, Mr. Will Brown, here with me.
What's up, G? How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Going into the new year, going into 2025 strong. Got a lot of things that's we're working on, a lot of things that's hopefully coming together. But I'm just real excited to be able to sit here with you and spend time with you. So
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming up to my job, man. It definitely makes it easier today.
yes,
I
thank you,
appreciate it.
thank you. Well, why don't you go ahead and tell people a little bit about yourself in case they haven't seen or heard you on the show before.
Yeah. It's been a while, right? Been hibernating. That's pretty much what I do in the winter. But yeah, Will Brown. Um, been knowing Gerald for what over 5 years now, maybe
Hmm.
like six. Yeah. So I would say we say like the 215 Moto OGs, the
For sure.
originals, around since the beginning. Um, so in my professional life, I'm a principal. So a lot of times
Right,
our
which
conversation is
we're here in your office.
yes. So that explains where we're at right now. We're at my school. Um, no students today, no staff, just me and Gerald right now in the building holding it down.
For sure, man. And I always view you as such an inspiration, very successful, and you're a motorcyclist, a Philadelphia motorcyclist, someone who enjoys riding. Um, Tell us a little about your riding and all, what you enjoy most about riding.
Yeah, it's funny. At first, I had a few buddies that were riding, and I wasn't as into it. You know, they had their sport bikes and everything like that, and they're like, "You should get a bike." I'm like, "Nah, I'm good." You know, just trying to figure out some things financially back in the day. I was like, "I don't have money to, spend on a bike." They're like, "Hey, just take the classes." So I took the classes, got my motorcycle license. But once you hop on a bike, that's it right there. So,
For sure.
so
Yeah,
then now,
when you have friends and all that are into it.
yeah. So then after that, I'm like, all right, let me figure out how I'm gonna buy a bike. So I figure it out. Get a Gixxer 750.
Hmm.
It was my first bike, um, and and that was great. That's how it all started.
Right. That's cool. And now what are you riding?
Now I've switched to the cruiser, the big touring, the Harley Road Glide.
Hmm.
You
Yes,
know,
beautiful, beautiful Harley Davidson, all black chrome.
yeah, that's my baby. I miss my Gixxer a little. I was gonna keep both of them, but I found myself never riding the Gixxer, and then so I sold it, and now I'm like, I probably would track it now that we've been doing the track stuff. So I'm like, but it's all good. I think the Harley kind of fits my lifestyle a little better these days. I get to ride it to work and from, so you know, um, sometimes it was hard to find time to ride the
Yep.
Gixxer or ride it the way I wanted to ride it. Right, kind of if if you're not going down 95 super fast, you kind of feel like a waste sometimes on the Gixxer. But on the Harley, even if I'm stuck in traffic, I'm
Right.
feeling good and I'm feeling happy. So I'm happy with that choice.
Oh yeah, for sure. Plus you got the bags on it, so we're always asking you to carry our water or drinks for us,
Yes,
and
a
you
lot.
always have the tools. You always have the battery charger
Yeah,
and jumper.
people's jackets, hoodies,
Right.
whatever they don't want to wear at the time. So, tools, like you said, all those different
Yeah,
things, and I get to go on trips on it. So,
that was cool when you rode up to the New York safety track when we had that event going on up there. Rode up there, camped out up there. That was cool.
yeah, it's nice. I've been trying to test the limits a little more with how much stuff I can actually hold on the
Hmm.
bike, comfortably. So that was one where I got the tent on there, sleeping bag, all that type of stuff. So, and that worked out pretty well.
That was cool. That. So again, this show being about motorcyclists and here and inspirational stories here in Philadelphia. So I wanted to kind of dive into a little bit of your background, because yes, you have risen to a principal here and I know you've been working hard over the years. And I wanted to kind of get a little bit of a background story to share with people who are possibly looking at what they want to accomplish or what goals they want to set. So that's how we kind of start, man. Like, where are you from originally?
Yeah, I'm from Philadelphia.
Which part? Which part of the city?
So I was born in North Philly. All my family's pretty much from North Philly. You say like 26 in Cecil B. Moore, 29th in Jefferson Thompson up there. So that's where all my family's pretty much from. When I was really young, we moved down to South Philly, so we were living down like Fifth Street, down like Dickinson,
Mm-hmm.
Tasker, down there in South Philly. So I kind of have like those roots in both like North Philly and South Philly.
Mm-hmm. And what was family like? What was family like for you? And do you have like
So
brothers and sisters? And
yeah, so I have an older brother. He's 2 years older than me. We both grew up with just our moms, so we have different fathers, but neither one of our fathers was around. I later found out that my father was deported. Like I
you were
found that
just
out not too.
recently, you just came back together and you went in Jamaica, right?
Yeah. So last year my father passed away, and so I had to.
Yes. Sorry, forgot it.
Thank you, no problem. Yeah, so yeah, last year I found out that my father passed away. So, and he was living in Jamaica. So, went out to Jamaica to attend the funeral, and it was, although very sad, I got to meet so many, amazing family members that I had never met,
Mm-hmm.
and they have just been so welcoming. Like, one of my aunts, she texts me every morning, like different scriptures and things like that. I have aunts and cousins that check on me all the time and everything like that. Now that they know me,
Mm-hmm.
now that they know I'm here, I met uh, a brother and a sister that I didn't know I had. So, sorry, two brothers and a sister that I didn't know I had,
Oh.
and they've been amazing. So, it's been
So your
awesome to
family
meet this
practically
family.
doubled
Yes,
in
yes, yes,
a
yes,
very short
yes,
period of
yes.
time.
Yeah. So, yeah, so I grew up with my mom though, and my mom is just like one of the most hardworking people ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, she passed away years ago, but she was one of the most hardworking people ever. I mean, talking about working two jobs consistently, maybe a third job sometimes to make the rest of the ends meet, and you couldn't tell us. We didn't know we were poor. Like, we didn't know
Mm-hmm.
that just because my mom just made so many things just happen later on. Looking at it, kind of see like, oh, she was like really, you know, doing a lot to make this work.
Right. And taking care of you and making sure, because what was it like for you growing up in those areas? I mean, they're notoriously known, of course.
Yeah,
You say you're from North Philly. Um, it's not a great area of the city, unfortunately. There's a lot of good people up there still, but there's still problems. So what we're trying to get at, which I'm sure is how do you stay on this path?
yeah. I think just the example of my mom, like
Mm-hmm.
she was just a hard worker. Like, she wasn't into the streets or anything like that. So, like instilling that in us, and like just like a faith in God and a moral, ethical system within us, like just thinking about those things, kind of helped me to stay on. Like just knowing the difference between right and wrong. Also understanding that hard times are temporary, so
Mm-hmm.
like don't sell out your future because you're having a hard time now. So although there were times where I knew that we were struggling, I just knew that, okay, one day I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna be okay. So just kind of sticking to those ideals that my mom kind of pretty much instilled in us.
So
Hard
your
work.
mom was definitely an extraordinary person.
Oh,
There's no
absolutely,
question to be
absolutely.
raising, kids and boys and
Right.
young men in areas where so many people have fallen victim to the environment.
it's
So,
it's so easy to get caught up in the nonsense. I mean, like when I was growing up in South Philly, I mean, like you're it's basically just because you're living on this street in this area, if you're instantly initiated. Like
mm-hmm.
there's no jumping in or anything like that. It's like
Yeah.
you're from there. That's you're part of it. So,
Mhm.
and then you'd be going to like war with the guys 2 blocks from you and things like that. So, I mean, like, it was very important to kind of keep that like belief system that my mom instilled in us, just in our hearts.
Were you guys involved with church, and how was that with you guys?
Yeah. So my mother, she was a devout Jehovah's Witness, and like she like really like talked to us about like just all these different things, kind of like, and that helped to really keep us on the straight and narrow, like that faith.
I would have loved to have the opportunity to meet your mom.
Hey, one day,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
One day in paradise, right?
And also, what school did you go to when were you in a public school? In a Philadelphia public school?
Yeah. I'm a product of public schools here in Philadelphia. So
Hmm.
I went to Kirkbride Elementary in South Philly. And then for high school, I went to Central High School.
Hmm. And then where'd you go after Central High School?
Once I graduated Central, I decided we left I left the city to go to a small university called Mansfield in the middle of nowhere.
Hmm.
If you've ever heard of Mansfield, you know that that's like a one stoplight town in the middle of nowhere. So that's like a complete culture shock. But that is one of our Pennsylvania state public schools.
Hmm. That's great, man. And then also any other schooling that you went to afterwards?
Oh yeah. So then after Mansfield, I decided that I want to go into teaching. So I went to the University of Pennsylvania's Urban Teaching Education program
Hmm.
to get my master's, and that's where I kind of go into education. When I was at Mansfield, I wanted to go into business. Kind of really what I wanted to do was go into nonprofit leadership.
Hmm.
But if you know anything about nonprofits, that's such a grind. Just like even sometimes like to live sustainably, like to make an income that you can sustain and like get everything you need.
Right.
And that could be rough. It could be years and years and years till you get there. So actually, one of my friends told me like, "Have you ever thought about teaching?" It's like kind of goes along with your goals and
Hmm.
everything like that. And I was like, "Wow, it really does." And so, and that's when I decided to go into teaching. And University of Pennsylvania had a 10-month program where you can get your master's. It was really intense, but
Hmm.
10 months. So I graduate Mansfield in May. I think July I start my master's program.
Hmm.
And so, by the time I think 22, yeah, 22, I have my master's.
Wow.
And so it was,
So again, another thing that is exceptional about you is how you were raised, the values that were instilled in you,
mhm.
and I mean how incredible that is. Because again, like we said, too many people just fall victim to their surroundings,
Right.
and you and your mom, you guys were able to avoid all that, man, to rise above your surroundings and also to see a future, to see the possibilities. So for you to accomplish what you've accomplished and then go back and be part of education for our kids is just exceptional. It really is, because so many reasons why I wanted to talk to you about the kids today. Firsthand. You have been working with the kids today and the kids in Philadelphia in general. At your other position that you had, that was more of a technical school, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so when I was at MassBomb, that's more of a vocational career and technical education school. So, when we talked about some of the skills like in automotive and carpentry,
Mm-hmm.
electrical, plumbing, things like that, that students could come directly out of high school with. And here, we're building a kind of a different identity at the school I currently work at of pathways for everybody. So
Mm-hmm.
try to work with students on what they want to do after high school and try to figure out the best possible position, whether that be going directly into career, into the workforce, whether that be going to a trade technical school, or whether that be going to college, higher education of
Mm-hmm.
some sort.
How can, because it all starts with the kids and the youth, and it's important for us as adults to find out how can we help the kids and their future.
Mm.
And because you are around the kids of Philadelphia, and I'm sure you see everyone, one from who is excelling, who may come from very little,
Mhm.
and others who are just going in the wrong direction and may think that they don't have a future. See, that's
Right.
what upsets me the most is our kids who believe they don't have a choice, they don't have a future, that this is how it has to be.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, because knowing a little bit about your background, that you did it and you can tell that story to say it doesn't have to be this way.
Right.
You don't have to be that person or that kid. You can have a future. You can set goals. You know, you I'm sure your mom had a you worked for everything.
Mhm.
You know, you had nothing came easy, right? You didn't grow up in an environment where you had gratitude. You appreciated, I'm sure, the little things. And seeing your mom and the sacrifices she was making, like that was your positive role model. Like
Absolutely.
that's wonderful.
Absolutely.
That's the blessing in your life.
If she could work three jobs, I could work one.
Yeah,
I was like, I
absolutely.
could work one and do this very well.
Absolutely. Now, it's always trying to get kids to understand that there is a future out there for you.
Yes.
To believe, have faith, love yourself, and know that you can have the future that you dreamed of. If it's my opinion that if you can dream something, if you're dreaming it, you can accomplish it. You know, like I was saying before, like I'm not dreaming about being the president. My dreams are for me.
Right.
So if I'm dreaming that, I can accomplish that.
Mhm.
And someone else could be in a position where they're dreaming about being the president.
Right.
And if that's real to them and it's real in their heart, then they could really accomplish that.
It's,
And
it's very true.
trying to get kids today to understand, like we can't keep you losing
Mhm.
these kids and generations just because no one's teaching them the right thing, or no one's teaching them to believe in themselves. And unfortunately, you and I both know that a lot of these kids today, they don't have positive role models in their lives. So it's important that we have other leaders in the community, in school, that can kind of help them, right? Like how can we
It's
do that?
it's very difficult. And part of it, there are a lot of positive role models out
Mm-hmm.
there, but you have to also break through the mentality that a student might look at someone and say, like, okay, although that is a positive person, I can't be that, right?
Right.
And like, even though they see it, and you tell them, like, look, I'm coming from the same place as you, but sometimes we have to just listen to that child to really figure out what is that barrier of them
Mm-hmm.
understanding that they can go far in life. Because a lot of students, when I talk to them about like the mistakes they're making and things like that, it's like, well, you don't know my story,
Yeah.
right? That's what they're constantly saying. You don't know my full story. And so
Right.
we have to really listen to them to really see, like, okay, yes, no one, when you talk to little kids and you ask them what they want to be, it's
It's
always super
beautiful. It's
amazing,
so
right?
beautiful.
So you have to figure out what happened
Mm-hmm.
along that way for a young person to kind of lose that hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
To kind of change their mind and say, like, oh, I can't be president of the United States. I can't be a doctor, you know. Like, so um, that's a lot of the difficult part.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we start to
You know,
turn into like therapists, and it's like, all right,
I can't even imagine what you see and experience on a daily basis. And kids are kids, man. I mean, I I understand when they say you don't understand or you don't know my whole story, but there have been countless other people
Right.
before them
Mhm.
who have experienced
Yeah.
really bad situations, really bad backgrounds. And it's trying to get people to understand that you're not alone in this. Others have endured it, others are currently
Mhm.
going through it, and then people are rising above it.
Right.
And I'm always trying to, and it's also with the adults, man. Like that's why when we communicate with other adults and I say be the best person you can be,
Mhm.
set that example, show the next generation what's possible if you work, if you believe, if you have faith in it, if you have, and it's hard, it's supposed to be hard, right?
Mhm.
Like shit's not supposed to be easy
Right.
or it wouldn't mean anything.
Yeah, you definitely have to, especially with young people. You have to help them plan it out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because when we speak about the future is so far away
Right.
from in the minds of young people. It's so far away. So it's all about the now,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're living in the now. Especially when you're struggling, you are definitely living in the now. Even us, if we go through some tough times, we're not no longer thinking about,
Right.
the plan for next year and the year after.
Yeah,
We're like, okay, how are we going to get through this
Yeah.
week, right?
I'm
So,
back on one day at a time, to tell you the
hey,
truth, man.
look, it's real. Like we all will go through that at different times, and a lot of young people are going through that consistently.
Mm-hmm.
So really, breaking it down to them is like, trying to unpack first of all, like what do you want to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, like we said, you ask a little kid like what they want to do, they don't say, "I want to run the streets. I want to be a street
Yeah.
dude." They don't say that. Um, they say all these different amazing things. So you have to get those kids back to that mentality and then help them to plan out, okay, what do you need to do this year? All right, let's do that. What do you have to do next year? Okay, so these are some options. We're talking about looking at different like trade schools, apprenticeships, um, colleges, different things out there like that. How do you pay for college? Like you have
Mm-hmm.
to pull all that out because when you really talk about like role models and positive influences, that's what we need them to do with
Mm-hmm.
young people to help them like just reignite that spark,
Yeah.
like to want to be like hopeful for the future. You got to sit down with a kid and help them plan it out
Mm-hmm.
because you might be the only person there that's doing that for them.
Right.
No one else might not have done it, So um, I would say that that's the biggest difference, like between a kid in the hood and a kid like out there in the suburbs or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. It's like,
And either
um,
one doesn't mean one's going to succeed and one's going to fail, because the one from the hood
could
could be the one, and we
could
all
very
know
much
the
make it.
one from,
Yes,
everybody's situation and circumstances are a little bit different, but they all need to have that value of
they need
I can have
somebody
a
to show
future.
them, right? And so like with the kid from the hood and the kid from like the suburbs, the difference a lot of times is just like who you're surrounded by,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you're in the suburbs and everybody there has like this career and things like that, you have all these different people to pull from in a sense of like, oh, okay, these are things you could do. It doesn't even cross your mind that
Mm-hmm.
failure in a sense of that. But the kid from the hood is like trying to figure that out, and like they might not have people that have done those necessary
Mm-hmm.
things. There might be, there's a few out there, right? But to get connected with them and see that, that's where all of us have to come in.
For sure. And that's why it's so important that teachers and other faculty in the school are appreciated
Right.
by
Absolutely.
by um, the community, to the neighborhood, the city itself, contracts, salaries. We can't keep losing good people because they can't afford to have not even just a comfortable life.
Yeah. They say that what is it? I forget the correct term, but like Philly is like a school centric city.
Mm-hmm.
Like whatever thing is going to happen for kids, it's like going through the school.
Right.
Like so, and that becomes difficult. So like every service, everything that helps students is coming through the school, um, not necessarily a lot of different places. So it puts a lot on educators. So just know that
We keep
those
hearing those stories about teachers who have to use their own money
oh for sure
and they're not. Uh,
For sure. You get
Most of your teachers, I mean, they're all college educated.
right.
Some with masters,
Hmm.
some that just went through the different school programs for teaching, and they're not making a whole lot of money in comparison to their investment for education.
Right. So yeah, you could look. I'm never going to down like the teaching salary. You can live a very fulfilling life off a teacher's salary. I always tell people myself, like, look, out of a lot of people that I know coming out of college, coming in a career, I was very financially stable on a teaching salary.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't down it in that sense as far as like it's not a lot of money because it can very much lead to like financial stability,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, but right for someone to have like a master's level education and you look at a different field,
Yeah.
and then compare it to what a master's level educator is making, yes,
Mm-hmm.
there's a very difference. There's a huge difference in that amount of money, those salaries. Um,
I mean, honestly, like I try and talk about things that I know about.
mhm.
So this is a field that I am very interested in, and I don't know a whole lot about it. So that's why it's important to talk to someone like yourself. Who better to talk to than someone like yourself? Because I want to understand, you know, I don't think people on like when if there's a strike,
Mhm.
okay, a teacher strike. I don't think the person, people like myself who are outside saying, "Oh, what are they striking for?" I don't think they understand how important the role is, and even more so here within the city and every city, how important it is to have the right people, quality educators, the right role models, people that care, and
Mhm.
how important it is that our kids, our youth, is being given a environment that they can excel in, that they can feel safe in, that they have the tools that they need. For so many people, it doesn't make sense to us why this is a struggle, and and why, like I said, if my son went to public school here in Philadelphia, and everyone looked at that like it was a lower standard of education, and but if you pay, and not everyone wants to send their kids to a Catholic school, or I don't. What exactly is a charter school here in Philadelphia?
Okay. Well, first thing I would say is if you're choosing to send your child to public school, I want to say that these are some of the best educators out
Mm-hmm.
there that you are sending your kids to work with. Are they doing a lot with less? Are there like behavior problem in the classroom? Yes, yes, yes. Those things are happening, but the people that are in front of kids, at least the people that I have in front of students, are like amazing
Mm-hmm.
at what they do. Um, as far as and I'm coming from the lens of public education. I did work at a charter school. Like the first school I worked at coming out of school was a charter school. Um, so charter schools provide or or are supposed to provide an alternative to the public education
Mm-hmm.
system, right? Different options.
Some are very difficult to get in.
I
I know
mean,
they do
I
lottery
didn't. I didn't
systems,
want
or
to. Look, I respect all educators and everything like that, but some of the premise of what happens at charters and things like that. I worked at a really good charter, and I
mm-hmm.
think they did a great job with things like that. But then you see some of these other ones. Yes, they are handpicking kids, making sure that certain kids don't get in,
Mm-hmm.
things of that nature.
Now,
Not necessarily
who is
living.
funding these schools, the charter schools? How does that get funded? Because the kids don't pay the tuition, right? Like where.
No, it's still taking students from the neighborhoods and the catchments in some cases, or citywide admissions lotteries and things of that nature. So basically, what happens with a charter school is they're seeing it as another form of public education. So when those students leave a public school, a Philadelphia public school and they go to a charter school, they're taking their per student allotment with them.
Mm-hmm.
So that money is going with them to the charter school now.
Because we see more and more charter schools popping up, and when you're talking to parents, they're frantic about trying to get their kids into a certain charter school, and
Well, it's like
I hate the divide that it creates
you
now.
get to a certain point where you got to call out certain people hear charter schools and hear better, and
Everyone,
that's not
exactly.
really the truth.
Or how the kid's going to react and excel or not excel. I mean, I would think it's up to the kid. There are some children who are raised in public school that have excelled beyond expectations. And then the same on the other side, that parents have refinanced multiple times and the kids are still, well, they become young adults who are still kind of lost and not sure what they want to do. So it's so much goes back to, in my opinion, the kids, their upbringing, their role models, the world that they live in, their examples.
It starts with your home. I mean, honestly, it starts at home. And I don't want to get into a whole public education versus charter education conversation and things like that. I love you, my charter school people. Keep doing what you're doing. I know you're fighting to provide students with the best possible education, in many cases, things like that.
And then parents, they're doing whatever it takes.
I am absolutely pro public school, though.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it shouldn't be a who gets in, who doesn't get in, the lottery system where 3 get in, but several more are sent back. Like it's frustrating for me because I look at the importance of who and how our kids are being educated and raised and the environments that they're given, and it's just I don't like that right away from the beginning, people getting separated.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of live. I mean, once you get to high school, you start to see like a little bit more of like the merit based like criteria and things like that to get into schools. A lot of people for elementary school are completely against that. It's kind of hard to say to a kid, no, you can't come to the school.
Now, with public schools, what some don't they get different grants for performance or something too? How does that work?
So basically, you can get more money from the federal government if you have a certain amount of students that live in poverty below the poverty threshold. But then also there are certain schools that are struggling that receive extra funds too. Now, what happens is those funds have been taken away year after year because you're supposed to. It's kind of weaning you off of that money until you're kind of on your own in that sense with those dollars. But yes, there's Title I money that goes to every Philadelphia public school is receiving Title I dollars for to help with to provide more resources for students that live below that poverty threshold. So in the other case of those extra dollars for struggling schools, if you do better, you kind of lose that money. Not to say it's just some conspiracy to not do better because you're going to lose that money anyway. But so like schools that are kind of performing better don't necessarily get those extra dollars because you don't need them.
Okay, good. And how about some of the other activities? Now, I know some schools, we always talk about the arts. And are these still programs that are available to kids? Whether it be, anything in the arts program, band?
Yes, you have to have some type of art program in your school as far as a class. It has to be offered. Not to necessarily everyone, but there has to be an offering of some type of art, whether it be visual art, dance, whatever it is.
Right. And then also when it goes into the band, like a lot of people would love the opportunity to get involved in the music and do some public schools, they don't have these programs?
So Class, that's kind of complicated. Like I said, there's everyone has some type of art, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like whether it be music, dance, visual art. They offer that as a class. They have a teacher on their staff that does that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, will you have all of them? No, it would depend on how many students you have. A bigger school is going to possibly have all three because they have to offer something to everyone in a sense. When you're at a small school like mine, you have like one. Like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
sorry kids, but we
That's
have
here. That's
we
at
yeah
this one.
yeah we have dance. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
what we offer. We don't have a whole ton of students to be able to, hire another art teacher to teach a different type of art.
Mm-hmm.
It all depends on your budget. So
Okay.
you're going to at least have to have one.
Mm-hmm.
But whether you have more kids, then you have a higher budget, a higher need for more teachers, and you can kind of differentiate in that matter and be like, say, in that manner, and say, okay, we have a music teacher and we have like art teacher.
Mm-hmm. And how about the sports too? When we talk about the different sport programs and how is that set up here? What kind of sport programs are set up?
Our students pretty much have access to all the popular high school
Mm-hmm.
sports and things of that nature. One thing we've done, a lot of it too, is getting creative and like pooling resources. Like um, for sports like football, like my school couldn't possibly field a football team now, so
Mm-hmm.
we we pair up with another high school
Okay.
to be able to have like a team and our kids play together for their team.
Mm-hmm.
So the students have access to everything that they need. I mean, things like basketball, volleyball, yeah, we have that
Okay.
in house. Softball, have that in house. So yeah, high schools definitely have students have access to sports and things of
Mm-hmm.
that nature. Middle schools, that's something that's becoming a little. That's something that's growing as far as like the middle school leagues, public leagues.
So everyone knows how important is it when we see some of the kids out trying to, fundraising and trying to raise money, and we see them trying to raise money, whether it be for equipment or traveling expenses. Like, how important is that for us to look at that? Like, hey, let's contribute to help these kids
Mm-hmm.
get what they need so they can pursue their goals and their dreams that they're trying to accomplish.
Well, yeah, that's one thing about like the school district is that any equipment that's needed along those lines, like pads, helmets, things like that, that's provided by the school district, so that's being paid
Mm-hmm.
for. Anything that students are raising outside of that would be things that might be like consumable things that they're going to keep and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, like public education is an amazing thing. I don't think people give it the credit that is due because, like I said, like you want to play a sport? Huh, here are all the
Right.
things you need. Like when I was growing up, I mean, I couldn't play football until I got in high school because of the cost, right?
Mm-hmm.
My mom's doing all this stuff, and then it's like, oh, you need like this $200 registration fee. You need to go buy another like $200-300 in equipment, things like that. Like, man, that wasn't doable. So
Mm-hmm.
like to be able for a student to be able to go to one of our schools and be able to like no matter what, get on that team and get equipment. That's an amazing opportunity that's been a door that's been open for them.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I love the stories when you hear people who really um, have succeeded in
mm-hmm,
whatever avenue they've chose, and they come back and they understand and they are able to donate and
mm-hmm.
give and help. That is, I think, that is one of the most amazing things for someone to do, for someone to be able to come back and say, hey man, I've succeeded, but I'm giving back. I want
Yes,
to help.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I've been able to run into different donors over the years, and just amazing people that don't have to. They could just be
Mm-hmm.
like, look, I made it out. Like it's on you all now. But they come back and they provide to the young people. They speak to the young people, and that's always an amazing thing.
For sure. Do you ever have guest speakers come to the school and get up and speak to the kids?
Yeah. So we try to reach out to a variety of different people to come out and just speak to the young people about different things. Because it's one thing when I say it, but when other people come
Yeah.
by and kind of ditto something that I said before, and I'm like, see, he
Right.
said it too, she said it too, like this. it's always good,
Even more, I would
especially
have.
like in careers and things like that,
Mhm.
doing career days and just people, community people, just being able to talk about different
For
things.
sure. Right. It doesn't always have to be a pro athlete or
No,
someone in the music industry. It can be a doctor. It can be a whatever engineer.
right,
Someone to say I had a passion for something
right.
and I pursued it. Like yourself. I mean, to get involved in education and risen up to the top to be a principal.
Yeah,
So
what am I doing here?
yeah. But again, it's such a key role that's so important today. And then I think, so how do you feel the kids are reacting to the change in technology and the change in? I mean, we both know that the world's going to be turned upside down again.
Hmm.
Again, I've been speaking to some people and they're like, "Oh my God, this is going to be crazy," talking about AI and how basically, like I said, the whole world's going to be turned upside
Right.
down. It's happening now within 5 years, and people act like it's something new. It's yes, it is amazing technology, but when you look back in history, so was the internet. The
Mhm.
internet turned the world upside down. So it's again,
The calculator,
yeah,
right?
everything, everything.
Like in her,
Going back to the smartphone and going
right,
back to how we've been through this before,
right. It's
but
not.
I want like how are kids reacting and how are the young people looking at the future and future jobs and how the job world is going to change. Are they preparing for it now and are they seeing it now?
My thoughts have always been to think a few years ahead of what we
Mm-hmm.
have now to try to prepare students for that. So that's why I'm against things like banning cell phones in school, banning AI. These
Mm-hmm.
are these are tools that are going to be around for
Yeah.
a long time. Like I use AI.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I have to send out certain things, write me an email saying blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah. Blah.
And
Like
it's
it makes my like I just saved 5-10 minutes right there
mm-hmm.
to be able to go do something else. So I believe that there there is a responsible use for things like AI,
Mm-hmm.
and students should become familiar with it. Should they be writing their like term papers with it? No, not at
Mm-hmm.
all. But also, it doesn't scare me because Gerald, if I read like three of your papers and then the fourth one you use
Yeah,
AI,
you can see
I
it.
know that's AI. Like,
When
I know that's not your writing.
I
Like I
always
just until until you're able to feed AI like your writings
mm-hmm.
and say like keep it on par with like how I write, then like it'll just be like you plagiarizing off the internet.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Well, that's
I
how
know these are not your words. Could you explain this to me?
I always like bringing up and having conversations with people about what's going on with technology and the
Mhm.
future. And it's funny because I look back and when I had to write a paper, I used encyclopedias.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that was my resource
yeah.
for the information I needed. And then, so what I'm saying is now it's like everything's just streamlined a little bit faster now.
Yeah,
And the
so
information, and then going
mhm.
into from encyclopedias, now the internet. I got the access to the world and every bit of information imaginable at my fingertips.
Yeah.
So again, a
Technology is not a linear progression, it's
mhm,
exponential. So when you see how we go from one technology to the next, it's not like just like a linear, like every
mhm,
5 years we will get this. It's like, no, like that thing is it's booming. So
mhm,
where we're going to go with like things like AI in the next 5 years is going to be probably pretty insane.
yeah,
Like things we couldn't believe just because of how quickly we went from flip phones to an
yeah.
iPhone, like, and all these different things. So
And then they're back to flip phones again when they go into
yeah,
the thing.
virtual
But
reality and things like that. Like, so so where we're gonna go right now is it's hard to keep up with it, but we can't shut down what we currently have
mhm,
and not show young people how to use that as a tool,
yeah,
because that's
use
going to
it.
put them as at a disadvantage because we can't even picture what's next. So we
Mhm.
can't shut them out from what's here now.
If people are adapting and adjusting, it'll just be like everything else. It's scary at first, but it'll in the end it'll end up
Oh
being
yeah, yeah. And there's always like counter tools to everything, right? So like if you're scared about something, like if you're scared about AI students being able to write their paper with AI, well, guess what? There's an opportunity for someone to create a program that detects AI.
for sure.
Things like that are you can't, so I'm not worried about that.
But it's just great to make sure that they see the future and the future jobs and positions and how things are going to change. And, even myself always looking at, how can someone become a consultant for businesses now
Right.
on how to benefit from the technology that's changing. I was looking at
Absolutely.
putting a program together for the power sports industry. How AI can help streamline inventory, sales projections. So again, and then sometimes when I'm trying to talk to younger people, and I get nervous when I hear them say they don't think about it. I'm like, you got to think about it. That's your future.
Right.
You got to stay ahead of the things that are happening and changing. So it's important. I was curious to see how they're being introduced to it. And of course, some people are going to abuse it and some people as long as they know they're only going to be hurting themselves because
the truth is the young people beat us to it. The young people were using AI before I got to it.
Yeah.
Like through conversations with them and then doing my own researches when I discovered like, oh, how can I use this to make my job easier?
Right.
Oh, I need to write this memo. I need to write this, email. I need to, do this. And
it also can help us raise the quality of the work that we're producing, because even if you're getting assistance, you're still going to read it and you're going to be.
I mean, it's not doing all the thinking for you. It's doing
doing
the organizing in a sense, right? Like I'm still feeding it what I wanted to say. I'm still feeding it the information I want to send out to parents. It might just,
for sure,
put it nicely into those sentences and maybe add a few things to a nice little touch to it. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is good.
And I like I talk about it often about how it's such a great learning tool, just to research everything you're interested in. I love learning about writers and philosophers, and it helps me better understand their work like I never did before. But you can get lost into the information and the things you can learn. It's, of course, when you talk to an older generation and they'll say, oh, I don't know how to do that. Like, well, look it up. Like we're, how we are, and then how hopefully kids are growing. Like everything is just a search away, a video away.
Yeah. Can we pause for a second? That's the garage.